What is up, friends? We are back here talking more PGA Tour bets at oddschecker.com/US. Geoff Fienberg with @TourPicks. Joe Idone. Joe went 3-0 last week, and it's his birthday. So he's on a heater. He's doing the heavy lifting, and we got his birthday charm as we're headed to Craig Ranch. It's a week before a major. Things are starting to really heat up as the weather is getting nicer out, and we get into that real fun part of the PGA Tour schedule. And what a field the week before major. Normally I come on these things, I rattle off the names of guys that have won the weeks before a major, Joe. Most recently, JJ Spawn. Last year was a weird one. I know we had Aaron Wise, we had Garrett Higo, we had KH Lee here. So, but does this feel that way? The field strength is here. How do I put this? It feels like one of these heavy hitters, there's too many heavy hitters, priced, but, up to 40-1. 1, 2, 3, 4 of them are going to have their A game this week and just be part of the birdie barrage. But a birdie party kind of opens up the field to everybody. So I'm still trying to pick a side as I finish my outright card for the week.
Yeah, you said that well. As the spectrum sort of widens in terms of potential scoring, and once you start to get to 20, 25 under par, it actually brings a lot more guys into play than if it were 5 to 10 under par. You mentioned the strength of the field is fantastic. I think that's kind of a product of it's been some weird events, right? There's been some weird scheduling stuff. You had the new event down in Mexico. It wasn't great last week. These guys need to get some reps under their belt after the Masters. We haven't seen some of them. The team event, exactly like you mentioned. We're going to be back in the southern sort of heat of summer next week. So a lot of them, I think this is a little bit of a tune-up, but some of them I think have their eyes on the prize and could use a victory under their belt.
Yeah, there are too many good players who, sort of have a winless drought, or as a very popular one is winless altogether. And as we have sort of seen, winning matters. Like, Phil won the PGA off a seniors tour win in his previous start last year. And all these guys know how hot they can get once they finally win one. So why not win one leading in? The money's always fun. It's a pretty easy course. We saw JT and Spieth doing a practice round at Southern Hills. So that shows they're not too concerned. They don't feel they need to learn anything about how this one's going to play. Guys are pretty familiar with it, especially in the region. Let's get after it. It is the prop picks, though. Joe, you start us off here. You got the top 20. You went 3-0 last week, so I got to give you honors.
I'm going to go. This is going to be a little bit of a reach here on a top 20, but talk about a guy who's in a real groove right now, Geoff Fienberg. Kurt Kitayama is plus 500 on DraftKings to top 20 this week. If you looked over that on the odds checker grid, he's only plus 360 on FanDuel. So you're getting an extra 140 points there on that ticket at DraftKings. Making a ton of birdies. Second in the field in the last 24 rounds in birdie or better rates. Easily finished with inside that top 20 moniker in 3 of his previous 6 starts, including last week, 15th, despite losing 2 strokes putting. He's hitting his irons, and his off the tee game is extremely solid right now. 10.3 tee to green last week he gained, 7.8 over in Mexico. I think these wider fairways are just going to assist a guy like Kitayama, who's really kind of an underrated bomber. When you look at driving distance, this guy pokes it out there farther than JT, Scheffler, DJ, Brooks, Xander, Zalatoris, all these big names. Kurt Kitayama, little compact Kurt Kitayama is actually longer than all of them. The list goes on, plus 500 on a top 20. I'm going to take a little stand there and try to make some good money on that ticket this week. What do you think?
Yeah, I can't argue with any of that. I totally agree. There is a handful of players here, Joe, this week who are going to benefit greatly from the wider fairways that aren't going to disrupt their, hot birdie streaks by putting one in something that's going to cause the double or the triple. Before I get into my first prop, let me pick your brain. Let me pick your brain here. I've made 2 outrights already. I'm on the Willie wagon. I don't care. I can't be talked off it. It's popular for goddamn right. It's popular for good reason. And I bet Mav McNeely at 66-1. But in front of that, in that 30 to range, I'm staring at Neiman and Hideki Matsuyama. If you would have leaned there, who would it be? I'm kind of trusting Hideki and seeing some pretty interesting 34, 35 to ones. Neiman, he's being priced at 40 to 1 to win next week, Joe. Like, you go try to shop an early Joakim Neiman, it's like the books know just how well he is suited for Southern Hills. And he makes birdies in bunches as well. So, yeah, give me a lean, birthday boy.
I trust Hideki in that spot a little bit more. He's been great from 200 yards plus. I believe like 35% some of the approach shots came from around that range last year. Granted, a little bit softer conditions, but he's extremely solid there. Great tee to green. I like him in any type of environment, whether it plays tough or whether it plays as a complete birdie fest. We saw him do it at the Sony. We saw him do it at the Zozo. The one concern, of course, is the neck injury, but I think enough time has passed since then where I don't think it's any longer an issue. I think he's gearing up for the PGA Championship, but I also think that he's the type of player that wants some momentum heading into that. With a couple of weeks off that he planned on playing, he's looking to sort of build momentum heading into PGA. I lean Hideki there.
Yeah, and again, he's a guy that pops in a fantastic track record on easy scoring situations.
Yep.
My first prop. I never, ever bet Ryan Palmer to win nothing. I don't bet him. It just happens. There's a few guys. I've never really been proved wrong until the one weekend he teamed up with John Rahm. I don't bet Cameron Tringale. I don't bet Keegan Bradley. They're just guys. We all have them. Like, I don't think you could, if you had my entire historical database, you'd never find an outright bet on Ryan Palmer. But I'm going to the well here. As confident I was in my stance on Lahiri last week, which is kind of the only thing I got right and kind of saved me, like playing Lahiri every which way. Maybe not totally to that extent, but Ryan Palmer, T40 plus 190? Are you kidding me? I mean, I got no confidence in his ability to win, and I don't want to say how confident I am in this by using that dreaded like 2-word term when you put them together. No. I don't want to say it, even though I'm thinking it. But Ryan Palmer plus 190 in Texas to top 40. Come on. Like, that's just, it shouldn't be that easy. And they're going to break my heart, aren't they, Joe?
No, I don't necessarily think so. I actually like Palmer this week. His best finish since January came at the Valero a couple of weeks ago, also a Texas tournament. We know his familiarity here. I believe he has sort of an unofficial course record and not a tournament round. So, look, he's just been getting bludgeoned by the putter and bleeding strokes putting. But anytime you step onto a golf course, I think in my mind where you know that you've played it 50, 60 times and these other guys are just seeing it for the first time, you've got that sort of course record 62 in the memory bank. You've got to have a little bit of confidence knowing that I know these greens better than the rest of these guys. Hopefully that can lead to a good putting week for him.
Yep. Very well said in that regard. All right, Joe. Next up, I know where you're going, and we're taking two different avenues here. Both supporting Mark Leishman. Tell me how you're going to go about it.
Yeah, so Geoff, last week I had this thing with Tyrrell Hatton where he was right around even odds to top 40, and I just felt like, given his history, when you look at the clip that he finishes inside the top 40, that break-even number was pretty good odds. Same thing with Mark Leishman here is minus 110 on DraftKings to top 40. 9 of his last 12 events, all of the events so far in this 2021-22 season, he's played 12 of them. He's finished top 40 in 9 of them at a 75% clip. You're basically getting even odds. Mark Leishman is a guy that you don't love on a tight golf course. He can get a little loose off the tee from time to time. Wider fairways, easy to hit greens, minimal rough. I think that gives him a bump. And he has top 10 in strokes gained on easy scoring conditions. Not to mention, he's got a history at this event of playing well. No, I know these are on different golf courses, but same time of the year, same region of the country in Texas. He's got 2 second places at Los Colinas, which is a resort course in the same sort of region there. And he finished second at Trinity Forest a few years ago, which is wide open. I think a lot of those courses kind of are set up very similar in some regards. So I like Leishman at top 40 minus 110. You like him as well, bud?
Yeah, no, I'm here on Leishman, and I stared at that T40 minus 110, and I was just like, I don't know, there's got to be a way. it just like didn't satisfy me enough. And I got to be honest, I'm thinking about potentially putting him on the outright card in the 60s. And he, very much like Hideki, has an incredible track record of an ability to like take easy scoring conditions and score and go low. So those are the type of guys that I'm looking for. You mentioned the wide fairways for all the reasons that you mentioned. But I've looked to that top Aussie market, Joe, plus 220 for Leishman. When I check out that grid, I'm taking on Jason Day, who is also at that same number, and Adam Scott, who was the favorite. I love Adam Scott. I've been bullish on Adam Scott. Maybe we'll talk about Adam Scott next week. I don't know that like a birdie party like works for Adam Scott. When his ability to be like very narrow and hit small windows is neutralized by what this course is, and having to pretty much get quite hot on a birdie run, like I'm happy to take Leishman in that battle. And it's nice to see Jason Day play well. That's great. What we saw last week, it was, to be honest, like it's hard, like it takes a lot for me to like feel sympathetic for these guys, and between how he was scoring and the conditions and just sort of how his last little bit's been, it's like, well, okay, like you just felt bad for him. It was like a sad scene watching it on TV. I don't know what else to say, and I'm enjoying that form, but I'm playing my flag in the ground with Leishman, taking that plus 220 action. So I'm playing top Aussie Mark Leishman.
Love it. Yeah, Jason Day. Leishman's just frankly a better player than Jason Day right now by a pretty wide margin. And Scotty, you mentioned, has been very forthright in the past with their 6 to 8 tournaments a year that really grab his attention. I can't imagine TPC Craig Ranch was one of the ones on that list.
Yeah. All right. So finish us off here, Joe. I knew I would have bet money. My top prop of the day was this next player was going to be one of Joe's props. So take it away, buddy.
Yeah, the absolute lock of the day was me in some facet taking Sahith Theegala. I love Sahith. He's plus 175 to top 40, going right back to that top 40 market. I love Sahith on this type of course where he can be the aggressor. He can take driver off the tee, and he can really sort of go after this thing and make as many birdies as possible. The easy course narrative is there. I think that he's a player vastly on the rise. I love him to finish in the top 40. He's been on a good little run, and not to mention his best performance as a PGA Tour pro was at a relatively gettable, scoreable par 72 TPC Tom Weiskopf course over there at TPC Scottsdale, where he finished third a few months ago. We have the same type of setup this week, par 72, gettable par 5s, Weiskopf design, TPC course. All the stars have aligned. It's Sahith's week. I'm going to take the top 40 at plus 175. You knew it.
Yeah, I knew it. And I'm probably expecting you. Well, yeah, maybe you'll even put him up as a bomb this week. I don't mind it. He actually really does fit that player profile, and some great points that you've made, how much better he is. And these are the scoring conditions that are going to absolutely favor Sahith. I'm going to Lanto Griffin, Joe, and I can tell you right now, I've also bet Lanto since the last time I spoke with you guys at Odds Checker. So he's going to be on my outright card at 80 to 1. Lanto plus 280 for that top 20. It's almost, I wish I was getting a bit more. I'm going to be fully Lanto this week, all DFS platforms games. Like I'm going to ride or die with how Lanto performs this week in pretty much every market I can get my hands on.
Yeah, he's really trending in the right direction. The stat models would indicate that. The finishing positions would indicate that. So I think still maybe one of the last spots here to get in early on Lanto before everyone, including the books, kind of catch on to this nice little run that he's on.
All right, Joe, we are just a few days away from really deep diving into the PGA Championship. I don't know about you, but I'm really hoping, like I was silly to think we could get a Players Championship type odds board. I don't know if you remember it, but it was really luscious. Everyone, between like the strength of the field, how large the field is, the historical luck sack, aspect. I don't want to mean that, but like we've just seen the wild cards
come
out
right?
Out of the PGA championship historically. Yeah, Phil, I still think it's a true. I still think like that is some sort of, we're living in an alternate universe that actually happened. And that'll be interesting. Phil's story, will he be there next week? How could he not be? Oh my God.
I think he's going to be there, and I'm excited to kind of look at it. You're right. Things are sort of moving, starting to move in that market now as people dig a little bit more into Southern Hills. Excited to talk to you next week about it. I'll certainly be glued to this odds checker grid that will certainly indicate any line movement. If we see any spots, we'll be sure to mention it.
Yeah, and that's the part of it. Like, as guys like in the sort of ecosystem that we are, the majors are kind of always omnipresent on my mind. I'm using these grids. It's the week before a major, so like the refresh button's probably going to wear itself out, especially next week. But I'm looking at these grids in like November and December, and just because I enjoy doing it, it doesn't feel like a weird thing to me. It kind of happens by osmosis because I just do it. But when you get to this time of year, you have that sort of point of reference. So congratulations to everybody with their 40-1 Scotty Scheffler tickets, Joe. And I think at Christmas time, if you would have spoken to even the Scotty biggest fans at Christmas, like he's going to break through huge this year, he's going to win a major, everyone was calling for it at Southern Hills. So he's popped early. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see, man. See you next week.
All the best for Geoff Fienberg, my guy, Joe Idone. It's his birthday. He wants to get out of here to get down. So we're going to let him go. We've kept him long enough. We'll be back next week. Southern Hills, a major. Let's go.
Let's go. See you, buddy.